We are the Minikoju. I am Wiwambly, great grandson of Tashunka Witko, Crazy Horse.
Tashunka Witko. Tashunka Witko. Crazy Horse was his name. The mystic warrior of the Lakota Nation. Who was this man that was so much loved and hated at the same time? His mother was a Minikhanju, and her name was Rattle Blanket Woman. It is known that he was raised by a holy man of the Lakota Nation, and that his mother went to the Great Spirit when Crazy Horse was about 4 years young. He was a Lakota warrior and brother to the buffalo.
Wakantranka ho iye makia he Yokshija wa una otechikelo Trokata kia numpi umanik telo Hechetu hello.
My name is Carl Dupree. This is the second year that we have this camp going. Our first camp's here in Thunder Butte, and tonight we'll ride into Usta. I think it's about 30 miles that way to the west. And then from Usta, the next day we'll be heading up to Rabbit Butte. There's a creek, Rabbit Creek, right off of there, and there's a butte right next to there. And then the next night we'll take off for Slim Buttes, and that's another sacred site. But it's a route where the old people took from here to the Little Bighorn or to the Powder River. From there we'll go to Medicine Rock, and I think at Medicine Rock we'll stay there for 3 days. Deer Medicine Rock, north of Lame Deer. There's the old Sundance grounds. Then from there we'll ride into the Little Bighorn. We'll go to the south of Highway 212 about 2 to 3 miles. It's about 200 to 300 yards off of the original campsite, so the bands from up here camped. And I guess that's their journey, I guess.
The first time we hear about Crazy Horse is when he, his younger brother Little Hawk, along with some other friends, hid behind a knoll and overlooked the first real battle between the Lakotas and the white soldiers. This battle resulted in the wiping out of the soldiers. That was August 19th, 1854, the Grattam fight. Crazy Horse grew up in a camp of Oglala led by Sutta or Smoke, who raised the young rebellion Red Cloud. Sutta's own son was the young American Horse. It is said that Crazy Horse was born in the year of 1840 near Matopaha or Bear Butte and close to the Good River, the Cheyenne River. After the death of Crazy Horse's mother, his father, called Crazy Horse at that time, took 2 wives from among the Sichangu tribe of Lakotas. They both happened to be sisters of the well-known Sinta Gleska or Spotted Tail. From a young age, Crazy Horse grew to hate the white man and would never trust one of them for the rest of his life.
What my people don't understand is why so many white people work up here and so few Lakotas.
Even before the age of 20 years, Crazy Horse showed great fighting skills under the leadership of Mahbialuta Red Cloud. Among his closest friends by that time was American Horse and Young Man Afraid of His Horses. During a summer encampment in the Black Hills, the leaders of the great camp of different Lakota bands agreed to honor 4 good men by giving them the Owner of the People shirt. The first one they selected was the one who carries a sword or sword. The second was American Horse. The third one was Young Man Afraid of His Horses, and for protecting the people in difficult times of war, Crazy Horse. When fighting the white soldiers, Crazy Horse was used as a decoy with much success. He led the decoys when Lieutenant Fetterman and his 80 soldiers were defeated. None were left alive. June 25th, 1876, Crazy Horse led a large camp made up of different Lakota bands, together with some Cheyenne and Arapahoes, to a victory over the 7th Cavalry and wiped out General Armstrong Custer, along with all his 263 men at Little Bighorn, in what has been known as the Battle of Little Bighorn. The Lakota called it High Noon at Greasy Grass.
Well, the last reunion of these last 9 survivors was in September of 1948. And it was came about by the elders trying to find out how many were alive during the celebration. Or it's June of 1948. There was a dedication of the Crazy Horse Monument at Crazy Horse. That's when it started. I photographed that in stills, and 3 of the survivors of the Little Bighorn were present at that dedication. At that time, several of the elders decided to find out how many were alive, and they found that there were 9 alive, and they planned this reunion at Custer State Park by the Game Lodge in September 1948. And that's when I followed up and took those pictures, the group pictures and the individual 9 survivors. The group picture doesn't contain Black Elk because he was blind at that time and he didn't want to leave his rainbow teepee and walk down the hill. And so 8 of the survivors were in the group picture. Little Warrior, I don't know exactly when he died, but he was a medicine man. Pemmican is a Lakota, and I don't know the date of his dying either, but he was a Lakota. He's a Lakota. Little Soldier is a son of Sitting Bull, and he was only 13 at the battle. My understanding from Bishop Jones at the Episcopal Church on Pine Ridge was that he was with the women. Dewey Beard, or Iron Hail, was also a survivor of the Wounded Knee Massacre. He was the last to die, died in 1955 on November 2nd. John Sitting Bull is a half-brother of Little Soldier and a son of Sitting Bull the Chief. High Eagle, as I say, he was killed in a pickup accident out in Custer, I think it was about 96, a few years ago. Iron Hawk was the oldest at the time. It's hard to tell exactly how old, but according to the moon count, I think it was that the family thought he was 99 when I photographed him. but he probably was in his early 90s up to 94 or 5 because of the moon count being different from our calendar. But of course, Comes Again was his trust land is on Red Shirt Table, and he donated it to the church. And his family, the Tubals family, is very active in that church. 2 of the Tubals were ministers, and there are many groups of young people come and camp at that church on Red Shirt Table every year. And of course, the most popular and many books written about Black Elk, of course, and he traveled with Cody all through Europe after the battle, and many books written about him. And of course, my understanding is from the families and Bishop Jones mainly, that he was head medicine man of all 8 lodges. When he died in 1950.
Spiritual leader of this large, peaceful camp was the famous leader and medicine man, Tatanka Iyotake, Sitting Bull. He held a Sundance here and cut 80 pieces of flesh out of his arms. In his visions, he saw soldiers falling head down into camp. He already knew that victory was to come. Killing all the soldiers did not make things better for the Lakotas. Sitting Bull knew that there would be no safe place for either him or Crazy Horse in the United States, and decided to move his camp of Hunkpapa, Lakota, to the grandmotherland, Canada. He invited his friend Crazy Horse to come along, but Crazy Horse answered, "It is better to die like a warrior in my own land, fighting, protecting the people, and stick to the ways of the grandfathers." The soldiers were closing in on the Crazy Horse camp, chasing them constantly for nearly a year after the Custer Battle. On May the 7th, 1877, Crazy Horse, with his followers, rode into Camp Robinson in Nebraska and surrendered, giving up the horses and what was left of their firearms. He was promised an agency of his own choosing, and when asked where the location would be, he simply pointed to the direction and said, "I will live where my grandfathers lie buried." Crazy Horse was well liked by the soldiers and officers at the fort, and jealousy soon became his worst enemy. It all started in the Red Cloud camp. Rumors said that during a meeting with the soldier chief, Crazy Horse would raise up and shake hands. That was to be the signal to his warriors to kill all soldiers. Spotted Tail said that he could stay as long as he did not cause any kind of trouble and obeyed him. But a reward for the one who captured him made his own people start chasing him. Crazy Horse rode back to Camp Robinson under heavy guard. Reaching the camp, they took him to the office to meet with the highest officer of rank, but he had left the camp, so instead they guided him to the prison house. When walking in the door, Crazy Horse realized that he was to be put behind bars. He turned around and made a leap for freedom, but was held from behind by one of his best friends, his former sub-chief, Little Big Man. Crazy Horse already had a knife in his hand and managed to wound the man who held him back. A young soldier ran his bayonet through the kidney of the warrior leader. He was badly hurt. Falling to the ground, he cried, "Let me go, let me go." He passed away the next morning, surrounded by Old Worm, the only father he knew, and his cousin, the Minikhanju, touched the cloud. The date was September 6th, 1877. Rumors of the killing reached Sitting Bull in Canada, who mourned the loss of a great man and good friend. But after a few years in the grandmother country, the Hunkpapas longed for friends and family members not seen or heard from in a long time, and finally they made their way back and settled down in North Dakota, the Standing Rock Agency. During the summer of 1890, a new religion swept over the Lakota reservations. The ghost dance was brought to them by a Paiute man called Wowoka. He told them to make special shirts and paint them and dance. To dance until they fell into a trance, and then the white man would disappear and the buffalo would come back, plentiful. Not everybody believed in this Messiah and his message, but the ghost dance was performed by a disillusioned people, a people who cried for an answer to what happened to them, begged the grandfather spirit for answer and help. Sitting Bull took no part in this new religion himself, but he allowed the Miniconjou, under the leadership of Sitonka, or Bigfoot, to let him and his people dance on his reservation. Soon the rumors of the ghost dance spread to the military and their command. A new uprising was coming, more war, again fighting the Sioux, or so the military thought. They decided to stop this and went to arrest the strong spiritual leader of Standing Rock Agency, Sitting Bull. In the morning of December 15th, 1890, the reservation police made their way to Sitting Bull's cabin, and in an attempt to arrest him, he was shot, first by Bullhead, then again in the head by Red Tomahawk. Crowfoot, his son, died there with his father, also shot to death. Panic broke out. Bigfoot and his Miniconjou fled the area and went to a remote place on the Cheyenne River Reservation, but soon tried to seek protection and peace on the Pine Ridge Reservation under the strong leader, Pakbialuta Red Cloud.
They put us on this reservation, and so there was hardly any horses here. That was taken from us, I suppose, so that it would keep us from uprisings. So that's where the pony claim came in. The Sioux put in the pony claim because the ponies were taken away from them. So they got paid, but not much. So when the Miniconjous and the Blackfoot Sioux, not all of them, but some of them, and the Sanzarks and the Hunkpapas, they're a big band. They're all related. And they stayed together pretty much. And so that's what happened when the Miniconjous were with the Hunkpapas at Sitting Bull's camp, when they came out and they killed Sitting Bull. So they were afraid and they took off, pretty much on foot, a few wagons. And they went from Sitting Bull camp across to Whitehorse. And those people that lived in Whitehorse heard those dogs barking at night, so they knew that they were coming through there at night. And they went on south to the mouth of Cheyenne River. But when they got up on a Fox Ridge, an old lady that they was carrying on their back, she said, I'm too much of a hazard in Indian. And she said, would you just leave me here? So there's a Dead Woman's Creek between those two places where they sat her down, and that's where she died.
In cold, cold weather, they made their way. Most people were on foot. Food was scarce, and little or no weapons for either hunting or protection. On the flat between Porcupine and Wounded Knee, they were discovered by the white soldiers. Bigfoot and the Miniconjou band of Lakota surrendered there. They were brought down to Wounded Knee.
Right here where I stand is where Bigfoot and his band of Minneconjou Indians surrendered to the United States Army.
The next morning, they were lined up so the soldiers could count them. At the same time, they searched them for hidden arms. Among the soldiers were the remains of the 7th Cavalry, Custer's soldiers. A few broken guns were found. A soldier chief went back and forth in front of them, telling them what would happen if they did not listen and obey orders. A gunshot was fired and all hell broke loose. Soldiers were firing from all directions. The Hotchkiss gun was tearing men, women, and children apart. Fleeing people were found miles away, slaughtered by the white soldiers. The date was September 29th, 1890. Of the 350 people, only 50 were left alive. 300 of the Minneconjou lost their lives in what is remembered as the massacre of Wounded Knee.
At Wounded Knee, when the massacre was happening, Ginny, the one that married the Garrow, she was running and she had a baby tied to her back, and I guess they shot the baby. She ran and ran and ran, and she went down into a creek, and then that's when she really found out that her baby was shot. But that's all. That's one of the stories that I know of.
Strange as this seems, the site is sacred to the Oglalas of the Pine Ridge Reservation, but none of them lie buried here. It's their cousins, the Minneconjous.
Today, the Lakotas are scattered on reservations all over western South Dakota. Each tribe has their own place, except for the people of the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe. Here, 4 bands live together: Minneconjou, Sihasapa, Uhinumpa, and Izipko, sharing this beautiful land.
Hard. To be teki, they said hard. Tekilo, really hard. To be a Lakota, to be an Indian.
Lakolia unkopiki o tehikelo. Tokashila oyateki. Nawakajaki. Oichakya. Nawoksape wichayak uki. Hechel taya umpikte. Unshialelunk umpi. Tako asi yuashteo. Nok upo kokashila. O tehikelo. Watch over our people and children, O Great Spirit. Give them wisdom so that they can live the life you have taught us. We humbly ask you to bless all things. Hear us, O Great Spirit. It's hard to be Lakota.
Religion was a way of life. It's like our brother Buffalo. Brother the buffalo never roam. you know it's so hard. It's so hard to be like hey, hey, oh, hey, hey, oh. Humbly, my brother, in the sky. Yes, you fly high in the sky. When I see you in the sky, it brings tears to my eyes, my eyes. But you know it's so hard. It's so hard to be like hey, hey, oh, woo. Hey, hey, oh, because your love have pity on us, Mother Earth, hear our prayer. Let our children understand what you taught us in our lives. But you know it's so hard. It's so hard to be like hey, hey, oh, woo. Hey, hey, oh, woo. Hey, hey, oh, woo.
Thank you for allowing me to give thanks for this day. So if you bow your heads with me. Ya tewa kanthanka. Le apetua el trashunska. Wichoyate ki le woichuma el uhina jimpi. Zane uhina jimpi wopilam kioni chapi. Na tona trehanta hipi hena yuhata zania kihunik te cheoni chapila. Na tona lel ubo kipshne hena tita kion ki traki re oazan tikta umna cheche naish re okichi ze ikta trehan umna cheche. Heni yuha inja awen chan ka cheoni chapi. hechel inja zania glihonium kte. Na letona wawoki up hena. Okha dona hib hena. Wachiwi chashab wachiwi ya hena yuha. Dan zania le yukpia wachiukte he echewni chapi. Na le wayate trap ki inja le tan apetu le tan trokate ke inja tan zania unkte he na kun. Lila wopilon kione chapla how me daki oase.